Friday the 13th, Part 3 in Super 3D. The all-new process that puts you in the picture. Whether you want to be there or not. It will scare you. Count on it. Friday the 13th, Part 3 in Super 3D. Rated R.
Now in a second terrifying week, Dolphin Street and Bama Mobile, Cordova, and Showtown.
The blackest eyes. The devil's eyes.
You will suffer an eternity for this.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going Friday 13th style one more time for the rest of this month. Every 0 Point review. This time we're talking about the good, the bad, the ugly. Friday the 13th, part 3 in 3 freaking D, baby. Kevin, what's your first memory of this bitch?
Oh, probably satisfaction. Finally getting to see.
Now?
No, like this was where I finally got to see Jason in the Mask for the first time, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is what it's like." Okay, there's something to this shit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, but
we finally get the Mask. Just saying.
We finally get the Mask, and the 3D. My first time watching it in 3D was actually on DVD. Obviously, I missed this one in the theater.
Oh yeah.
But golly, did I make sure to get the 3D version of the DVD when it came out, and I love it.
Scream Factory, baby. Woo!
Oh, that's cool.
True Anaglyph 3D in here too. I got the glasses. You get a standard Blu-ray and you get a 3D Blu-ray. So,
oh, cool.
And it's Anaglyph. It's not modern. So, people, don't be going in thinking you're getting a modern 3D. You got to have the red and the green glasses specifically.
Now, does your box set come with the glasses, or do you have to have your own?
Well, I had a pair with a previous release anyway that came with 2 of them. It came with like the tin box that I got years ago.
Oh.
So I already have a pair of those, but I honestly don't remember. I'd have to go digging into the extras disc because it wasn't in this disc specifically. But this is also I swapped out cases, so they're all black in my set.
No,
they were all blue before, but no, I had a pair, but I don't honestly remember if it came with the box set. So, but it's a great box set. You can still get it off of Amazon.
Yeah, it's on my to-do list. I probably going to be what I beg for Christmas or my birthday.
There you go. Good man.
Make Christmas sinful.
God, my first memory of this movie, shit, like it's got to be VHS because I know it was on USA Channel once or twice. It was on some other channels here and there, so I'd always catch like bits and pieces, but it was always going to be like cut and censored. You wouldn't get a lot of blood. You would get like no nudity, like at all, of course, and a lot of the swearing would get kind of like redubbed or just cut out entirely. But I'm pretty sure I saw this on VHS for the first time from a video store. I don't remember specifically when, but I had the whole set at one point. I got a couple still down here that I've reclaimed over the years because I just sold all my stuff at one point. But VHS, and then finally DVDs and Blu-rays, of course. So this is one of those franchises where I have like multiple copies. Every time it comes out on a new format, I pretty much get it. Next week, we're getting Friday the 13th, 2009 coming out on 4K. Of course, I'm getting that, so don't be shocked if I start gushing about that, if it's a good transfer. But I always totally enjoyed this movie. Like, I appreciated this more because he's not so much of like this hulking hillbilly with a potato sack. This one, he's a bit more methodical. We're still not quite at the full machine Jason at this stage. But I like this because this is where he first gets the mask, and the story, while basic, is a fun one, and they definitely play into the 3D gimmick quite a bit. And I'm not much for gimmicks in movies, but this one kind of got me a little bit. But we can get into that as we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Kevin, what's good about this bitch?
Our man in the mask, Jason Voorhees, and we find out how he gets that big ass crack in the mask too.
For part 4, baby.
Yep. Part 4 and 6, isn't it?
Yeah, he
Is-
keeps that. He basically keeps that for most of the movies going after that. Even in Jason X, I want to say, because he's only like normal Jason for a little bit in that movie before he goes into Uber Jason mode.
Uber Jason. Poober. Yeah, I really liked seeing him in the mask. It just kind of fit. It
Yeah, it
gave
goes
him
to hell. He even on the figure, he still got the crack up at the top. I mean,
And
you can't really see it on the camera here, but no, it's there.
I'm jelly. But I dug this, and I dug the 3D aspect of it. I mean, I liked the movie prior to seeing it in 3D because I didn't even have any idea it was 3D until it came out on DVD, and I was like, "What?" So
It certainly explains a few things, like why they keep going towards the camera with a bunch of activities.
those cheap 3D tricks, and this is when they really started to like hone the new type of 3D and the new type of 3D tricks. They just like shove something at the camera through the camera at you.
Absolutely.
And it is cheap. It is cheap, especially when you're used to seeing like more digital things now. But it's not poor. It's not cheesy. It's still fun. Like they're throwing like eyeballs out the screen at you, and sometimes a rabbit. It's fucking funny, weird, and fun.
Or something as fun as like when you go to a movie, you want to get some popcorn going.
Probably fucking hot when you think about it realistically. That's gotta hurt.
Reminds me of why the Jiffy Pop containers always came and they kind of poofed within their aluminum foil and didn't go fucking flying everywhere. But this dude was high as a kite, so what can you say?
Hey,
Well, you are the expert, Kevin. Please do tell.
I would do that. Thinking after the fact, it's probably going to be hot as shit with hot oil and butter and grease.
No kidding.
Oh,
my tongue.
I'm never tasting again.
Yep.
But 3D tricks have always gotten me. Like, I don't know if you ever went to Disneyland when they had the Muppet 3D adventure, the Muppet 3D experience.
I did not.
It's up in the air whether or not they're getting rid of that right now in California Adventure, but it's an amazing experience. It is digital, but they utilize the 3D tricks like they do in this movie, and it's a lot of fun. But again, this has the evil to it.
Yeah, this is that. Now there's a few other movies that were trying to do this that were horror. Didn't like one of the Nightmare on Elm Street ones go for a 3D effect at all? Was that part
6?
4? Oh, 6. Okay.
Yes, that was Freddy's Dead, and it was the last 10 minutes of the movie, and it sucked. Basically,
I mean, I've seen it. I just didn't remember which one it was. So,
yeah, they touted it being this brand new technology, and it was for its time. It was a brand new type of 3D, but it didn't work. They had to keep going with it, but it didn't work.
Now you're playing with power.
Yeah, if you got an aspirin and some migraine medicine, some Botox injections into the...
That's modern 3D for me, is I get the migraines.
It's not so much this.
Yeah, this doesn't do it to me because it's the old school anaglyph. The red and the green, everybody got to wear those right goggles. But no, to your point, like this older style of 3D is actually kind of fun. And I'll get into a bad part of that once we hit the bad section. But for the most part, I really like the old school feel and vibe of 3D in this movie. It's a hokey selling point, but it works.
It did work, and it got people into the theaters to watch it because they wanted to see the spatter coming at them. Yeah.
Drops the gun, walks away.
Like a boss. And you would see projectiles, you would see protrusions and body parts, arterial spray,
Everything.
I want to say they spared no expense, but it only had a $4 million budget.
Yeah, the expense went with the 3D basically.
I got, it was fun, and it was good to see that they kind of went outside of their box again. So in the first movie, it's all about Camp Blood. The second movie is about another group on the other side of the lake. And here they're bringing Jason away from that. This takes place like right the next day after that. They found all the bodies. Jenny gets taken to a hospital, and Jason is on the run, and he finds this place to hide in. He's wearing different clothes.
Well, he gets the green shirt from the guy and the lady that he kills at the beginning of this movie.
In the shopkeepers?
Yep, in the shopping, because it's actually that shirt is literally hanging on the wall there.
Oh, okay.
Keen eyes will catch that. I caught that a few times ago, like a few years ago when I was watching. I'm like, oh, there's the green shirt. And, yes, I could look this shit up on like Wikipedia, but it's like I like finding shit like this out on my own. So when we do prep for these, I just watch the movie. I really don't do much work other than maybe I'll look at like Box Office Mojo or something for box office. But given I already talked about our budget on this one, so.
But we could say that it made a lot more than its budget, which is one of the reasons why fucking what's their names, Paramount was always so forgiving of it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we hate making these, but we're gonna keep making them.
Yeah. So its budget, well, I read 4, but now it's saying 2.3 million estimated. The rest of that, I'm sure, was installation of the 3D lenses in the theaters.
Yeah, probably.
But it grossed 36.6 million.
Yeah.
So it did pretty well for itself, especially for a threequel. At this point, third sequels weren't. I mean, Jaws was coming out at this point too, but there wasn't a whole lot of like or part 3s. So the fact that this was still making money was a big shock for Paramount, I'm sure.
Well, these were quick, cheap, fast productions. Like, I know I just said quick and fast all in the within like 4 words, but like that's what they wanted.
Speedy and swift.
Like, get these fuckers made, get them out. Let's print that cash. And while at times it can feel like, they're cutting some corners here and there, they still at least pulled together a very quality film here. And while the story is not quite on the level as some of the other sequels, it's still pretty engaging, and it's following straight from the second one. And to Kevin's point, we weren't getting many trilogies at this stage. It's 1982. We still hadn't gotten, Return of the Jedi. And, we're still waiting on other movies to even get a second or a third movie at that point. And, they cranked this bad boy out. It ended up working out. And it's proof positive that, hey, you stick to a formula, things do tend to work out if it's a good formula to stick with. And at least this proved like, hey, it's carrying from the previous movies. It's loosely tied in, but things are changing. He had hair in the second one. This one, he's bald. He had a different outfit. He looked like a freaking hillbilly in a potato sack. And in this one, he looks just like this big hulking fucking monster that's going to fuck shit up. And I like that upgrade. And you're clearly going from the first one, which is totally different kind of like feel for a movie, because you find out it's Pamela who's really killing everybody, not Jason. Spoiler alert. And in the second one, we get Jason. And then this one, we're fully into Jason mode. He gets the iconic mask, gets a really cool outfit. And Richard Brooks just totally, he brings a level of presence and intimidation that we always have enjoyed out of our Jason characters and all of the actors who have ever portrayed him after that, especially with Kane.
Yeah.
I know Kane's a little bit on the shorter side, but dude's built like a fucking tank, and he acts like a goddamn tank. He's like a goddamn unstoppable killing machine. And while Richard plays this a little more easy, smooth, when he needs to get running, it feels like a truck is coming down bearing on you. And I really like that in this movie. And I think that really is what puts this over the edge for me, into a really good section of, hey, this is a good, fun movie, and Jason's really good on this.
Jason's really good in this, and this is where he steps it up. He's much more physical. He's much more hands-on.
Yes.
He squeezes a guy's. This is the first time he grabs somebody by the head and crushes his temples together.
Like a grape.
Yes. In fact, that grape came shooting out through the camera.
Well done.
Yep. That was a lot of fun. Which I don't know if you caught it there, but Rick was the one wearing Pamela's sweater in this movie. That was
I wrote that. I'm like, they put Pamela's sweater on a dude, and it looked fucking terrible.
Yes, it did. Yes,
But I think they did that on purpose because we knew Rick was going to get it. I thought they were going to do something with this sweater, and they never really did.
No, not really.
Kind of a throwaway kind of a deal. So
yeah, even the ending was kind of like a all right then.
yeah.
It's not the same sweater, but it is. Anyway, can we spoil it already? I mean, the movie is like 40 years old. Like Pamela's the one that jumps out of the fucking lake this time.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a neat twist. And it looked really neat with the like worms flopping around on her face when she came out of the water.
Well, it kind of sticks with the theme of, hey, every time the movie ends, they get some sort of vision or some spirit of the lake is fucking with the survivor just one more time before they get hauled off.
Yeah.
And it's always been something a little bit different every time, and I appreciate that.
Well, there's no beating the curse of Crystal Lake.
No, Crystal Lake is the real villain of this franchise.
Yeah, because there's no place around the lake that's not okay to go to.
Yep, nope. Got to
Or
keep
that is
on moving
okay.
and don't go camping out.
Alone or with others.
That's very true. That's
Yeah.
why they went to New York, I guess. Let's get away from here and let's go party somewhere else.
Let's go party on a cruise ship.
That was sail to New York on a landlocked lake. Okay, that made a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
I have my opinions on that movie, let me tell you that.
It was violent.
There's a lot I like about that movie, and I have a different opinion about the ending that not too many people talk about, but that's okay. When we get to that one, I will bring it up, though.
It's probably been at least 15 to 20 years since I've seen part 8. Like, I've watched Jason Goes to Hell much more recently.
Yeah, that and like Jason X for me.
Oh, I like that.
Now we're starting over with these. I'm like, hey,
Sorry.
this works for me. Because next week we're going to be hitting part 4, and then we're ending with part 6.
So, that having been said, this is the first of the movies of this franchise that got really niche. Like,
yes.
It was kind of tongue in cheek, and I know Steve Miner's the director, so that kind of goes without saying because he directs some very famous. I don't want to say comedy horror, but it is comedy horror in a way.
Oh yeah,
like House, for example. But like you see at one point, one of the ladies is sitting down reading a Fangoria magazine, and the first article she opens up is a nod to Tom Savini, and so like there's a little bit of ha in this movie for you. Yeah, a little wink and nod. So I mean, this is the first one of the Friday movies that like is made for the horror fan and is acknowledging the horror community. That's really
Shelley
what
was
does.
basically a horror fan in this movie. He kept playing with like gore and pretending to be dead and slaughtered half the time. So
yes, and that was the other aspect of it where they were really giving you that wink to, hey, we see you guys. And then you see that again in part 4 where Tommy's got all the latex masks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it is kind of a neat thing. And that's more of what I was saying. Like it really kind of steps into its own and defines itself as a franchise.
Yeah. And I really, you got to have that kind of like evolution from where it started off and where it's going. I don't really think they had a full plan for, hey, we're going to do this one and we know where we're going with part 4. And then we're going to talk about part 5. Oh, wait, no, we're not talking part 5, everybody. and
Nope.
then into 6 and then beyond. And at some point it just kind of goes completely off the rails. But you know, at least at this point, they're working as needed. They're not thinking like, oh, hey, with part 2, we know where we're going in part 3. No, we're going to do part 2, see how well it does. If it sucks, bombs, whatever. Part 3 work, and then if it works, hey, we're going to go to part 3. Part 3, we're going to do the same thing. Rinse, repeat. Same sort of kind of cycle. Like, hey, let's see how well this does. See what works, what doesn't work. We're going to keep improving on the formula. But the only kind of like pullback on that is like you're taking like 2 to 3 movies to get the pattern down. Maybe should have had it down a little bit more early on, but this is early filmmaking, early 80s. This isn't today where you actually could have planned things out a little bit better.
Well, again, this is the first one that actually feels like an 80s movie. The other two, well, the first one was a 70s slasher movie. The second one felt more like a 70s slasher movie.
Trying to ease into the 80s.
Yeah, it very much had the tone and feel of the 1970s. But it felt like Uncle Rico missing 1982 at the same time.
Exactly. And I think something that really helps this movie as well is Harry Manfredini's score with this movie. It's very 80s. It really works without being kind of fucking cheesy. I don't know how else to put it, but
it was
like,
close to being new wave.
Yeah. It was close to being new wave without being new wave. And it just worked very well. And I loved, you know, the choo-choo, and like the mellow beats, and then you bring it up at the right amount of time or at the right time. It just worked out so well. It really made like the 3D experience, made it all just kind of come together in a nice little package. So if there was going to be a case, an example of, hey, 3D horror can work, this is that movie, in my opinion. And I think his score really made it all come together.
Yes, I would agree. His score is iconic. Like this would not have felt like it was connected to the first 2 movies had it not been for his score.
Absolutely.
Again, with Jason looking different, behaving different, being in a different part of the lake, again, not even seeing the lake until the very end of the movie. Like that score is what really brought it home and said, oh, okay, I'm watching a Friday the 13th movie.
Absolutely.
And it still gives you the goosebumps.
Yeah, I know. And you actually have like the art. I think it's from the if it's not from the Scream Factory stuff, there was a picture of like the vinyl album that they put out a few years ago. Let me see if I can find that. Might take just a moment. Riveting.
That joke I know. Okay, a bear and a rabbit's taking a shit in the woods, and the bear looks over at the rabbit and says, "Excuse me, do you have a problem with shit sticking to your fur?" To which the rabbit replies, "No. Why?" So the bear picks up the rabbit and wipes his ass with the rabbit. Did you find it yet?
I did. Just 1 second for me to get this uploaded here, though. Or I'm just going to do it this way. Open up photos. Okay. Yeah, share screen. Window. And share.
Bang! Hey, that's the phallus. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. I love that artwork.
Yeah, I do too.
Clearly there's fans, and it really works with Harry's score, so.
Yeah. But the synthesizers, they're funny.
Now, how do you rate the mask, actually? Did you like this first iteration of it, or do you have a different mask that you're... Okay.
You know, again, 6 is my icon. That's where I felt it was just perfect. 6 and 7 was perfect. But I have no problem with this because there's an evolution or degradation, de-evolution of Jason Voorhees, where you see him first in the lake in part 1. You see him with hair in a way in part 2. he loses that in part 3.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's still alive in part 4, but he's just pretty much dead. and by part 6 he's a zombie, like literally a zombie. So like he does degrade and decompose over time from a living being to a deadite, basically, for lack of a better term.
Ooh, Ash versus Jason.
If you know, you know.
And we know. And we know.
So I did like it. I did.
Yeah, you got any favorite characters at all, or what did you think of some of them?
Well, I'll get into that for the next segment, but my favorite character is probably the shopkeeper at the very beginning.
Porn stash.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like I felt seen. I felt seen that dude was me. Like, he can't have the sodium no more, but he's still eating all this peanuts and stuff. I was
He
explaining
keeps putting it back on the fucking shelf too.
He takes a fucking thing of Planters, puts his mouth on it, closes it, puts it back on the shelf, grabs a fucking gallon of Sunny D, chugs it, puts it back on the shelf, and then he's feeding a rabbit that's sitting eating the fresh vegetables. And they're just hanging out
shoving
together.
in a donut.
A chocolate donut. Now, I don't know if rabbits and dogs are related, but I'm just a superstitious type. Don't do that.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Don't give animals chocolate.
Yeah, I don't really have too much of a favorite character. We'll get into that soon, but for the most part, I like the shop owner at the beginning, and I like Jason, of course.
Vera's mom, she was cool. She reminded me of the old maid from Family Guy when they kept saying, "Oh, we're here to pick up Vera." No, she no go with you. And she slams the door. All I could hear was, "No, Mr. Superman knows here. No."
He is not in the house right now. It reminds me of this scene from like Die Hard with you doing it that way. I was like,
oh God.
Oh God, do I need to call INS on you? I want to talk to those kids right now because they may not speak to their mom and dad ever again.
Fuck. That's hard. And I'm racist, but not like that. Peck. Anyway.
It just made me think of that. You were talking like that. Thanks, Kevin.
Hey, and I got to make a Ghostbusters reference, so good for us.
Hey, we're scoring points tonight on 0 Point Reviews.
Woo!
Was there anything else that you liked about this movie you want to talk about? Just gonna take a look at my list real quick too.
No, not really. Other than the one biker lady, I liked her because there was more to her character than what they really showed. Like, she just pretended to be angry. She just wanted to be a kid. She
wanted to be
fun in the barn. Yeah, she was swinging around, being a little girl, having fun in the hay. And then she had to get serious and start kicking the shit out of people, or unceremoniously get the shit kicked out of her. But that was about it. I think just the shopkeeper and the one biker lady. She was cool.
Okay, yeah. I go shopkeeper and Jason because I really liked what they were doing with him in this one. What I mean by that is like how they were framing him. Like, he's kind of haunting the picture around at times, and they kept him at a distance until he finally got the mask. You could only kind of, as the movie would go along, they get a little bit closer and closer to him. So if you pay attention to how the construction of the movie goes, you don't get all that close to Jason with the camera until at least half of the way through. Because once
An hour and 15, yeah,
like when they're talking about like she was attacked by Jason, Rick's girl, what's her name, the final girl, Chris. Yeah, when she's talking about how she was attacked by Jason once upon a time and she got away from him, it's like that. At that point, you're a little closer, so you see he's got no hair. You see the deformed face, but you don't get a really good visual on it. And then the next time you start seeing Jason, we're even closer. We're getting closer, except for some 3D kill shots, of course. But like, I really like how they did that, because when in that final like 20 minutes of the movie, he's in your face and he is not relenting, and that makes it a little more impactful in my opinion, because as we go into the next movies, they do this a completely different style. And At first, I thought maybe this was a 3D trick they were trying. No, I think they wanted to save the full monster Jason for the last bit of this movie to really give you something you could sink your teeth into. Because I really enjoyed that. A lot of the camera work was really good, except for when they were framing the 3D at times. But Kevin, let's talk about the bad.
Oh, golly.
Because this is part of my bad, because talking about the 3D, while it looks great and everything, some of the framing feels a bit forced, to be honest.
yeah.
So at times you're watching that and you're like, I know what's about to happen. For the most part, 99 times out of 100, what you think is going to happen happens. I played that little popcorn clip for you earlier. Some of it's a little goofy, some of it's a bit cheesy at times. While I like goofy and cheesy, there was really no comedy in this one, so I wasn't really feeling like they got the right blend for this movie. And so that kind of ties in a little bit with like the camera work to the campy and the hokey cheesy stuff, and not really getting a good blend on that. Not that I'm saying that it's bad in this movie. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna go hokey and stuff like that, when they get to Jason Lives, that's the perfect mix right there for me.
Yeah.
If you're going to do any hokey cheesy stuff, that's what I want. If you're not, then part 4 is what I want.
The only 3D trick that really got me in this, the one that truly, I don't want to say impressed me, but did make me jump, was where the shopkeeper's looking to put the rabbit away with the other rabbits.
Yep.
And they're all mutilated and massacred, whatever the fuck else. Jason ate one of them. And then a rattlesnake goes jumping out at the screen.
Yeah.
You and I live where rattlesnakes are very common. So it's like,
We do.
like I'm getting goosebumps now, even just thinking about the shit. I don't like them. And then the guy goes running and shits himself in the bathroom.
Straight to the shitter and finds his nearest bottle of Jack Daniels, baby. Because nothing makes it going out than sucking something in.
Didn't worry the fact that there was still a rattlesnake in the shed, but fuck it.
Yep.
I'm gonna sit here and take a shit with Jack. That part was good, but that was the first 5 minutes, or excuse me, the first 10 minutes of the film. Like beyond that, given that this is a Steve Miner film, you didn't have the comical moments like you'd said. There was a few moments here and there where things were impressive, like the juggling tournament, but that was about it.
Yeah.
For me, my bad for this were things seem to be toned down even more so from the second movie. The violence has gotten like way toned down, and the fact that they brought up Tom Savini in this movie, I was kind of like, well, then why don't you show some of the great shit that he did in the fucking first movie? Oh, because it's the 80s and people are starting to bitch about these horror films. So they were a little more censored this time around.
Right. Yeah. I kind of remember that there was a bit that was cut down. They were asked to tone it down by the studio and the MPAA. And to your point, like, I like a lot of the death scenes, but they all tend to feel a bit abbreviated and like they had to pull punches on it. So you didn't really get the full Monty, so to speak, on all of the wonderful deaths that they had. Like even Andy doing like he was doing the handstand and walking on his hands. I'm like, and then Jason just comes straight up and like cuts him right down the middle, exactly as you think, but you don't. We don't need like the body splitting in half, but there's clearly more to it, because when you see the body later, it's like all folded up and dripping blood and everything. It's like you could do that, but you couldn't show a little bit more on that kill. Like one of my favorite kills is probably the harpoon kill. And even that, you can see a lot of the prosthetics, but they did a lot of good work on that. So,
and it was fun. Like,
yes,
it was really
What do you
cool.
think I made that clip earlier of being like a boss? Like, it's fucking great. I didn't show the death scene. I don't want YouTube to kind of zing us. I mean, I bet we probably could play that clip, but I just don't have that. So if people want to see clips like that, hey, I want to comment down below, please, and you better hit that like button.
You know what I want to see down below? Underneath this picture here, because that's really the bad of this. And I
God,
know
you're going to bring this up again
I'm going to bring this up again.
because
This-
it didn't bring you up again.
Correct. There were no titties. No
Yes, there
titties in
were.
this picture. Oh,
Yes, there
for
was.
a brief fucking split second. She wraps the towel around herself, closes the shower door, runs back to the shower, drops the towel, and then gets back into off frame. So you see like boobies just go. Bloop.
Anybody
your
who
point,
knows what I'm
yes.
talking,
You had to pause it. If you pause it, it looks just fine. Who wants to pause it? I
Kevin,
don't.
did you ever freeze frame a VHS tape when you were growing up on the boobs? Yes or no?
I don't recall, but I don't prefer to. Just show enough of the boobies.
I'm just saying, part 6 is the only one with no nudity. You saying there's no nudity in this? Yes, there is. And it gives you enough time to freeze frame it.
Barely. Barely.
Now, I am
barely.
going to agree with you. We were talking privately earlier today, and Kevin was saying more of along the lines of gratuitous nudity. And this movie definitely was a bit of a step down from anything that we've already gotten or were to get in part 4.
Yes, this to me is the most civil of the bunch. Like it's not violent free, it's not nudity free, but it's very unceremonious with both.
Yeah, and I will completely agree with you. Like they did have to pull punches on the violence, and they had to pull punches on the nudity a bit. They still had it. They still had all of them. They're still
Yeah.
technically checking those boxes off. It's just not to the extent that people would have. Like fans of us who grew up in the 80s, we're all familiar with everything that's going on. Evolution of nudity, everything like that, the violence. Eventually this starts to ease up, but it takes years. The mentality's got to shift. Like even on TV, well, the most this movie had, it had gratuitous language
Yes.
and pot smoking. The Cheech and Chong couple, were totally smoking pot almost the whole movie. So
yeah, like they're sitting there smoking a bong and then a joint and then a bong and a joint and a bong and a joint. And it's like, no, pick one.
well, they also had to eat some earlier in the movie too.
Yes, I was kind of sad to see that's where Super Troopers stole that shit from.
That was super funny. I actually forgot about that scene actually.
The only part about that I didn't care for is they stereotypically had an actor that looked like Tommy Chong.
Yeah, you might as well have just gotten Tommy for that.
Kind of, yes. And
That actually would have been pretty funny.
sure. That would have been the rest of the budget, though.
His weed budget, Kevin. Let's be specific here.
Shit, he grows his own. But I don't know. This was just civil. The pot smokers, they're your stereotype. Every horror film has a stereotype. Shelley's your nerd stereotype. Rick is your preppy stereotype. That's weird unto itself.
He looked like a jock who was acting like a genius too.
Yes. Chris is your normal girl, final girl, or supposed to be your normal final girl. I don't think she kind of really held up to either Tina or Jenny. I don't. Or I'm sorry, Alice, not Tina.
Yeah.
Tina was Nightmare on Elm Street, and she didn't make it.
No. And don't mention Tina and Halloween sequels, people. We will cross that bridge when we cross that bridge.
I like her.
I like Tina too. That's gonna get flack. Shit. Sorry, Halloween fans.
I don't give a shit. Anyway,
No.
I just started thinking
Well,
about Lindsay.
Well, you're talking about the characters here. That's going to be the other bad part of this movie for me is unfortunately, like none of these characters are terribly memorable or really stand out. They all seem pretty kind of down the middle, in my opinion. Nobody really stands out. The biker gang did,
Yes.
but honestly, you could take the biker gang out and nothing changes about this movie.
Yeah,
It's like
really.
they put that in there just to flesh out scenes they had to cut for one reason or another. And not like I didn't like them, they were fun and they actually did serve a little purpose when they took the gas out of the van towards the middle of the movie. And at the end of the movie, Chris is trying to escape and she runs out of fucking gas. So there is a point to that, but it just felt like everything around that, like, you didn't need them in there. You could have just had the gas line ripped and leaking out, and you still could have gotten to that point later anyway. So
they were
my problem
fun
is
for
like
now.
the characters weren't all that memorable, and some of them weren't really even needed. I think it was just to help with the body count, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
The only character in this movie to me that's memorable is Shelley.
Exactly.
The reason being is because he's very much like Franklin, where it's like you are counting down the seconds for this motherfucker to die. And you want to know how badly he's going to die. Was not all that in a bag of potato chips. The worst part is that he died in a fucking wetsuit.
Yep, and he lost his wallet. Well, what I would have expected is like one of his gags gone completely wrong. Like he had done like the hatchet in the head earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe this time you actually have a real hatchet to the head this time, and that actually proved to be like, you did this prank earlier, you don't. Wait, you're actually fucking dead. Oh shit.
Well, they tried that. It just they made him the boy that cried wolf is really what they did, and that worked.
Bingo.
It worked, but it was again unceremonious at the end because it was only one person, the pothead lady, that noticed he was there and then ignored him. If it would have been Vera, unfortunately died too soon, but anybody else that knew Shelley, a group of them ignoring him for God knows how long and just having his dead body be walked over several times would have been a much more interesting death for him.
Yeah, I could see that too. Yeah.
Walk over his body several times. Will you fucking get up?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's about what I got for the bed. You got anything else on that one?
I don't think so. I don't. Be Shelley here. He was the only person that I was kind of like, you paid attention to his character. He had that gimmick. You wanted him to die, but it wasn't good enough, and the rest of the cast wasn't good enough. They weren't remotely like him.
Right.
And I know they weren't supposed to be like him, but I mean,
Right.
they weren't as memorable as him.
Right. And that's kind of what I have a little bit of an issue with this movie from time to time. And, you know, there's times when I watch this movie, I absolutely love everything about it. And then there's other times where it's like, man, I can't really like a whole lot of characters in it. Kind of depends on probably mood. And like, I watch these like once or twice every couple of years. Every year I try and watch like most of these. I only make it like X amount of films in before I'm watching something else. But
Yeah.
we talked about this before we were recording. Like some years this is my favorite. Other years this is like my third favorite. Lives is better some years to me. It kind of depends on like your mood. And you know, everybody's rankings are always going to be different. And while this is a personal favorite of mine, currently where I'm, you know, having watched part 1, part 2, and now part 3, we didn't cover part 1, but I watched it anyway before going into part 2.
Yeah.
And right now I'm thinking like part 2 is a better film at this point, but there's so much I like about this. But I also know going into part 4, we're about to get some real serious fucking movie going on here because the gore is back in that one. And even that was cut.
Oh, was it? That'll be next week.
All of these movies have been cut.
Oh, I'm sure. Fucking Paramount.
But like 4 seems to be where they started to get a little bit of their teeth back as far as a lot of that went. And you actually have a bit more on the memorable character side. So, but as far as like ugly Kevin, I will say this: 3D old school anaglyph films from 3D, when you get a standard transfer and it's not a 3D transfer, when they put that to home video, it doesn't always look great. It looks even, I know, I love VHS tapes. The quality is fucking suspect at best at times for those. Some of them can look decent, some of them look bad. It's something with the 3D transfers when they try and put it just on a single track, so you don't have to wear glasses, you don't have to do anything like that. It's just one encode, no gimmicks or anything. It always seems a bit off. And I watched it non 3D this time, and then I watched a few clips a little while before we were recording with the 3D glasses, and I'm like, this movie was meant for 3D. And you can tell when you watch the Blu-rays and the DVDs that, yeah, the standard transfer is fine, but it's not great. It could actually be a little bit better, even for older movies like this. And keen-eyed viewers of this movie will notice the camera crack at the beginning of the movie when they're doing some of the exterior shots with the sheets that are being dried outside.
Oh, really?
Yep, bottom left corner. I don't have a picture of that, but there is a crack in the camera for that.
That's cool.
I mean, I don't mind that. That I have no issue with that, but like it gets overly fuzzy and soft at times. So, and that's when you know that what's going on with the movie is not quite lining up as best as it could. And that's just a product of its time. I don't hate the movie for it, but it is kind of an ugly part of the movie.
I could respect that. And speaking of an ugly part of the movie is a cut plot point that they tried to cut all the allusions to the fact that Jason sexually assaulted Chris, but they kept her flashback in there that was very much a rape scene. And you're like,
well, and he lets her live?
And he left her in her bed.
Like nothing ever happened.
And her parents said nothing about it. So she couldn't handle talking to them no more.
I would have maybe done a different scene. Narrative.
Tell a different reshoots, people. Fucking like,
yeah.
That, oh golly, that was just really out of place. It slowed the movie way down. It dirtied it up more than it needed to have been. And it just didn't fit. It didn't fit.
Yeah, the implications were there, but they didn't really specifically state anything. But, you know, she's recalling this like it's some sort of dream, but she says it really happened. But honestly, if that was Jason and he had gotten her hands on her, she's dead.
Yeah.
He fucking kills people. He doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe she was I don't know. I don't even want to try and figure out exactly what they're aiming for with that plot point, because
he has rape fantasies. Hey, people have different kinks. You don't know.
Okay, Kevin, I'll believe you on that one.
I watch a lot of SVU.
Happy anniversary.
But that was really the ugliest part for me, aside from the cast. Like the cast didn't fit.
I didn't even think about that till you brought it up. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And then that scene, I even had to look it up just to be sure that I wasn't being like too weird. No, I wasn't being weird. That really was what they were going for. And I'm like, then why not just cut that whole fucking campfire story out? It
made no sense. You could have just had them drive off, just kind of hang out. And then suddenly they come back, you know, or just show them like having some romp. You're trying to play it easy with the nudity. Okay, fine. You could still have them off just doing normal things, and you could just have left the whole damn thing a damn mystery, like why they had an issue between her and him.
I woke up with a quarter in my hand and a greasy asshole like this.
That's what happens when you let a stranger fuck you in the ass.
That's why you don't go running out into the fucking woods by yourself, you dink. Oh, and the other thing, the reason why she ran out into the woods was because her parents didn't want her seeing Rick. No shit, you're 17 and he's 30. Fuck.
Yeah, Rick.
I hadn't seen a teenager that old since fucking Steve McQueen, dude. Shit.
It's good. Oh my God. All right. Final judgment. Let's go.
All right. So my final judgment is going to echo what you were saying before. This is not a bad movie, not by any means.
No.
I can't say that this is better than part 2. I can't say that this is better than part 5. These movies they rotate, like you said, with your mood, and your mood can depend upon the weather. Like part 2 last week just set my sails, and I felt like $1 million after watching it. Today I was annoyed. I was seeing plot holes that was like seriously tweaking with me a bit. I was annoyed by the lack of nudity. I wasn't like in a horny mood or anything like that. I'm just kind of like, where's all the boobies? They're supposed to be here.
For 82, there could have been more. For 82, there should have been 82 boobs.
Something. But this is a good flick. It's part of that mythos. Now you have to remember, like Jeff said, each one of these is set on its own. They have no future plans. Basically what happens is Paramount says, all right, we want to get one more shot at that fucking money, but this is going to make it so like he's dead this time. Okay. So you do see his dead body in this one, just like you thought you saw it in the last one. You will think you see his dead body in the next movie. You don't see his body at all in the movie after that. And then in the 6th movie, it is his dead body keep coming back again and again and again and again.
That's when we get zombie mode. Yep.
Yeah. So like they do intend to kill him finally, like finite in this movie and in the next, to the point they call the next movie the final chapter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've said, I love this movie, but I also understand all of its flaws and drawbacks. And even to Kevin's point, I'm watching it this time and I'm like, no, I really like this movie. And the fact that I even had that pop into my head is like, there's some things that aren't quite jiving with me on this rewatch for some reason. It wasn't so much like the boobs, like Kevin. For me, it was just, I'm watching the characters. I'm like, I don't remember them being like this dull and uninteresting. And nobody's really standing out beyond Shelley.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. I mean, and it's not to say anything bad. It's just that's how I felt this time watching it. Whether that's true of the movie, it's probably true of the movie. I've just always glossed over it before because I'm having too much fun with the goddamn movie. And that's fine. But I love watching this movie. It's fun. It's always going to be there. And you're going to leave the lexicon of Jasonology. And, it's a fun fucking movie. And I don't know what else to say other than I'd probably give this, on this time of a rewatch, I'd probably give this a pretty solid 7 out of 10.
I'd go 6.5, and IMDb gave it a 5.6.
IMDb, I got one thing for you.
Meep, meep.
Yep. Number 1.
Yeah, that's kind of a low score even for this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me like maybe 2 years ago, like I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago, the last time I sat down and watched this one, I probably would have given it a pretty high score, like at 8.5 or something. But this time around, I'm just a little more critical this time around. And, like Kevin said, some things were annoying, some things were not, some things were just dull, some things just went like fucking nowhere. But Richard Brooks is fantastic in this as Jason. A lot of the movie has some great ideas in it. A lot of the kills are fun, just not as gory as you'd like. So there's a bunch of give and take with this movie. And you know what? That's okay, because not every movie can be perfect, and not many movies actually are.
No. But we'll start next week.
Yep, there'll be a couple of good reasons for that one for Kevin.
Yeah, Corey. I mean,
That being said, thank you everybody for tuning in to Friday the 13th Part 3 3D. We greatly appreciate you tuning in. Hey, you like our video? Do us the honor. Would you please hit that little like button down below and subscribe? Hit that little bell notification so you stay tuned to all of our video content. We will see all you slashers on the next one.